Disciples Liberation releases October 21, 2021. A dark strategy role-playing game, a mix of these two game genres in a grimdark fantasy game world. At its core is a single-player campaign that lasts about 80 hours. With over 270 different quests that you can trigger and experience, and 5 different game endings depending on the decisions you make with your heroine. There's also a multiplayer mode where you can battle online with someone else in 2-player multiplayer skirmishes that take place on turn-based tactical maps. The publisher from Germany, Calypso Media from Worms, asked me to make this video for you, a crash course. It's a mix of a presentation video where I show you the most important game mechanics without spoiling too much of the story, and an explanatory tutorial where I explain how the game mechanics work. There are also plenty of good and helpful tooltips in the game, as well as nice tutorial texts. You can see advertisement video in the corner. Many thanks to Calypso Media, the publisher, who supported my work with a little cheer and made this video, possible for you. With our heroine, we ride or sneak through territories that can come from 4 different climate zones, such as terrifying forests, volcanic plains, or ice-covered lands. Among other things, there are also many characters there that we can talk to, who engage us in dialogues where we have many different dialogue options. We can be demanding, we can act threatening, we can flatter and charm, we might even provoke romantic adventures, or simply lie straight to the other person's face. We recruit companions, people who are as strong as our heroine and who then accompany us through the rest of the campaign, and we also encounter different factions. There are 4, the Empire of Humans, the Legion of the Damned, the Demons, the Alliance of Elves, and the Undead Horde. If we get on good terms with them, they can provide us with troops. The better our relationship with them and the more quests we complete for them, the more valuable the troops we can recruit from them later. These troops accompany our heroine and her companions and fight in turn-based tactics. There are a total of 50 different unit types that we can recruit and then deploy on hex grid maps in battles. There are even ways to cast spells or fire from the second row with support onto the terrain, without the people in the background being able to be attacked. Just be careful, if the people forming our first line of combat are slaughtered, then the entire battle is lost. No matter how many people we kept in reserve or how smart we thought we were. Of course, our heroine has the option to level up, improve her stats, find equipment, better weapons, and better armor. We can assign her to 4 different classes. We can make her a warlord, a hexblade, a seer, or a witch. Depending on the class, her melee abilities might be a bit weaker. And instead, magical and spellcasting abilities become more dominant. We can unlock spells through research and then use them accordingly, and we need mana for that. Like many role-playing games, though it's also a strategy game as I said, there's a large fortress we find early in the campaign that we can manage. There we can build buildings, barracks where we can recruit troops from the different realms. We can build a marketplace, a forge to upgrade items and equipment, and enjoy many other features there. That's a building that we provide. Once captured, it produces a certain amount of wood each round, or in this case, minute by minute. We ride back and forth through the landscape a bit and encounter various objects everywhere. For example, a little tip. If you ever have health problems, sometimes you can find these fountains of life on the map. Just ride right up to it, click on it once, and all our people will be healed again. A lot of people... Right now you actually only see one here, that's our heroine herself. But at the bottom, in the bar at the bottom of the screen, you can see everyone who's basically riding along invisibly at her side. The ones all the way to the left who are surrounded by a kind of blue hex field-like border. Those are the companions, the other heroes who are riding with her, like her best friend Orion, for example. Right-click on the portrait, then they always pop up like this and you can see what they're capable of and what they can do. Besides the 3 companions we have at the moment, Aviana and her 2 companions Corisandre. And in this case, do we have 5 other nameless fellow warriors or fighters, zombie units, paladins or other characters. We've hired these from the 4 other factions in the game over time. And just like the other people, they can also improve with experience point skills over the course of the game and become stronger in combat. We keep riding farther and farther. You can also see units like these on the map. People we can talk to, we can also give quests or engage in battles. What if we get too close to him? You see those crossed swords above his head, then the game would change and a turn-based tactics map would pop up. We would engage in a battle with this unit. At the bottom left of the screen you'll see a portal, or you can press T to switch to managing our castle or fortress. We'll explore that later. At the bottom right you see 6 different buttons that lead to the management screens in the game. Journal, Map, that's the mini-map, and Character Management. You can also quick save with F5. In the system menu, for example, you can load or save game states, adjust options, change something in the game, and get an overview of the units you've hired. M for minimap shows us this map here. For example, J for journal would open up this tab here, where you can view the current quest and the ones you may have already completed. Would you like to track a different quest than the active one? So if you want hints on the map, like route tips, to be shown to you, just left click to activate the quest that's most important to you. You'll see where to go right away. Here's the map. You can also view all key symbols, captured buildings and locations where you can ride to start more adventures. Here's character management. We'll review it later. These are your recruited units. On the left, move them into the first or second rows to get ready for the battle cards. And this is the system overview I already talked about. There are 4 different factions in the game that we will get to know, and where we can improve our relationships through the dialogue options we choose, or by accepting and successfully completing quests. And if we manage to improve our relationship status with one of these factions, it will have dramatic advantages for combat, especially if we have recruited troops from them. You can see the 4 factions below. The Human Empire, then the Elf Alliance, the Undead Horn Zombies can fight for us, for example, or the Legions of the Damned. Then we can recruit demons. The rule of thumb is, the better our relationship with these factions, the higher and more advanced units we can recruit. The basic level, like level 1 units, we can always get. If we want advanced, strong fighters, our relationship with that faction must be especially good. And the second effect is that if we have a good relationship with this faction, that then the morale value is higher. There is a neutral morale value, and you can see it in the tooltip. 3 positive morale status levels and 3 negative ones. The higher the morale value, the more strength the units fighting for us have. Strength means the damage you deal is higher. If they are healing units, the healing effects they have are higher, and the chance of a critical hit increases. So the chance that a successful attack not only deals base damage, but also does especially high extra damage. Let's lead our little squad into the first battle. I've got my eye on this mana well here. It works similarly to the health wells. You approach them after a tough battle and restore your health points at the health wells. At a mana well, you recover lost mana points from casting spells. This one is guarded by a small group of enemies. Hovering the mouse shows who it is. Here, 3 level 2 units from different factions. We should be able to handle this fight. Still, let's take a look into the darkness and troop management first. To do this, we go to the bottom right of the screen, open the unit screen, and now we can see that there are definitely some things we can improve. In the first row, we can place up to 10 units. The limit is set by the leadership strength we have. That's a value. You can see it at the bottom, gradually increasing. If we upgrade our heroine Aviana, we can spend more leadership points. Generally, easier difficulties and weaker units need less leadership. The more advanced units that you can recruit later, once you have a good relationship with a faction, the higher level ones require more leadership points. We can place up to 10 units in the first row and up to 3 in the second row. These are the ones I mentioned earlier, the ones that can engage in combat from a distance. We'll take a look at this in practice in a moment, and they can't be attacked themselves. We can also reinforce the first row since we've only used 10 leadership points so far. Let's take one of these units here and place it on one of these hex tiles. In battle, we'll be on the left and our enemies on the right. Those standing farthest right from our view could join the battle first. We'll put these two up front, nearly depleting the leadership bar. We can't add more units here since the next would also cost 10 leadership points. We could definitely place a third unit in the second row. There's really only one rule: you can't use the same unit type twice, and there are just 3 slots that you can fill. If you've made changes, remember to click Save. We can go out, use the bottom left button to return to our fortress, and possibly get reinforcements, but we'll skip that for now. We can also use these windows here at the last second to check if we want to give our people different equipment. Maybe we've gotten something better by now, or if we want to jump straight into the fight. And we do that by simply clicking here. Now on the enemy on the left, attack. Let's go. We have 3 options: either actually carry out the attack, in which case we have to click on ready, or alternative number 2. We can say maybe we should think this over again because the enemies are intimidating us. Or if the enemies are super weak, much weaker than us, then the game also offers us the option to defeat. You can just do that. You can just click on it without worrying if something might go wrong. You still get all the experience points and loot you normally would. But you don't have to do this too easy fight manually, it's just calculated by the program. Of course, we also have a real fight. Click on ready and now you see a map with lots of hex tiles. Our people line up on the left, the enemy is on the right, and our people are strengthened by those we have standing in the second row. At the top there's an initiative bar showing units taking turns from left to right. We begin with these 2, then the red ones from the other side will go, and so on. After a round ends, the game restarts from the beginning. How is it determined who appears there? The initiative value of each individual unit is crucial for that. The higher the initiative value, the further to the left you are in the chain, and the sooner you get your turn in combat. You can fight right away now. So, Ori in this case, but that doesn't help since Orion Ori is a melee fighter. And now with his movement points, he has 5 movement points. He can move 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 up to here, or a bit less if he wants. But he can't move forward, and all our enemies are melee fighters too. That's why we could also say with him, hey, let's wait, click on wait, and then he'll be at the very end of the queue. That means everyone else moves first, and he moves at the very end. He often has the advantage, especially if the enemy has a lot of melee fighters, that you can let them knock themselves out in the first round. They should position themselves in front of you at a range where they can't attack themselves, and then move back again, and then have the opportunity to make the first strike. By the way, the whole thing is based on an action point system. Usually our people have 2 action points and there are 3 different types of them. I'll demonstrate this with one of our initiators in this zombie. He has a blue point and a red action point, which we can use in any order we want. The blue action point is a movement point. He has 4 movement points, and when we move, one of these blue points is used up. The red one is an action point. In the classic sense, that's a combat action, a healing action, or a magical action, basically anything where he can really influence the fight significantly, either by supporting one of our people or by weakening or even killing one of our enemies. And there are also golden points, which only some units have. These are all-rounder points, and we can see that here, for example, with Urion. Urion has 2 golden points. That's really cool. He can choose, do I want to move twice, fight twice, or do something else? That's really nice. One of our people can also cast spells, and he can cast a spell however we want. That's our Aviana, she's the only one who can do that. She spends her golden action point, and a spell book appears instantly when she wants to cast a spell, but first, let's decide what to do with him here. I'll move him up to this terrain tile, we'll go over there, and then we'll do that. Many of these units have a special action with a cooldown period. For example, we can tell him to camouflage so others can't see or move through him. This lets us use him to block narrow areas on the map. This way, 2 turns of cooldown are blocked. It's an action that's performed on himself. He camouflages himself, waits for others to approach, then strikes in the next round. Aviana could cast spells now. This is the spellbook here on the left side. All the spells are set here that we unlocked for her earlier in the fortress. That means you need a one-time cost, gold for example, or other things, to add a spell to your spellbook. She can't actually use all the spells here right away, for example summoning a lesser devil. She can only have an extra unit fight with her if certain conditions are met, like when multiple enemies on the map are damaged. However, she could already buff or support others now. That means, for example, she clicks here, then clicks on one of her people nearby, performs an action, and then this ally, in this case Corey, is supported. Now she only has one action point left. There's also the option to visit certain points on the map, like here, an orb of inspiration or an orb of resistance. The first person who moves onto it gets a buff, meaning a positive status effect until the end of the battle. Attention, there are also negative tiles you can move onto, and sometimes there are even additional effects in certain tiles that influence the entire map. And both friend and foe can end up in the shading, and often these things happen randomly, like lightning striking certain tiles or other similar effects. I played slightly ahead, just one round, moved a character, the enemy moved, and cast a spell. We've also done a few tricks that we have up our sleeve. Now I'll show you some additional information about action points. When you click wait, you move to the end of the queue, but only if you haven't used any action points yet. If you've already used one, you can only click on end turn instead, then you won't act again in this round. There are advantages to giving up 1 or 2 action points. I'll show you that here as well, using Orion as an example. If you give up a blue action point, the movement point, you get an initiative bonus in the next round, so you might be able to join a fight earlier in the next turn. If you give up a red action, then you'll be a bit stronger defensively in the next round. Giving up a golden action gives you both benefits. No matter which action point you give up, whenever you say, I don't need this right now, it always leads to something. That you heal for 10% of your maximum health points, which means if you give up both action points, you would heal for up to 20% of your maximum hit points. That can be helpful if one of our people is really in trouble. Now let's do a bit of fighting first. Ori will now do a quick trick and move forward 2 spaces. Behind him is Aviana, next in line is the other Twilight twin. Here she is. He moves directly behind this enemy unit, trapping the enemy in a pincer. Attacking the enemy now will be especially fierce and offers a combat advantage. Now he carries out this attack, a weakening strike. He hits once. A large number of health points are now deducted. You can also see in advance how many will be lost by an action. We'll demonstrate this with Aviana. 1 move, 1 fight, 1 golden action point, and 1 arounder point. She stays here, we go for command strike, and now it works. You can see in the enemy's health bar a red, a white, and a black segment. The black part is what has already been lost in health points. The white part is what we would take away with an attack now, and the red part is what would remain after the attack. Let's go again. And now we move a little bit somewhere else again, and now move to the other side. Exactly, now move to the other side, directly behind this unit into their rear. Now next, it's our zombie's turn. He sneaks up from here. Another pincer attack, he wheezes, comes forward. And now we can do another pincer attack like that, and then perform a claw attack and really hurt the enemy. Our unit's combat values are crucial in battle, as shown here with Aviana, our heroine. It may seem complex, but it's actually simple, right? 3 values are actually the most important. The first value is the hit points, shown on the left. The more hit points a unit has, the harder it is to take them down. The second important value is the power value. The more power you have, the more damage you can deal, or if you can heal, the more you can heal. The third important value is initiative. The higher the value, the earlier you get to act in the tactical rounds. The other values align with that. Your action points are golden, blue, and red. We discussed this. Mana, she can cast spells. The larger her mana pool is, the more spells she can cast in a battle. At some point, the mana pool will be depleted. The movement indicator shows how many spaces she can move in one turn on a round tactics map, for example 4. Leadership strength. The higher the value, the more units she can take with her when she goes into battle. Critical hit chance. How likely is it that an attack will not only deal base damage but also inflict additional powerful extra damage? There is resistance against 4 types of damage. Against physical attacks, physical damage such as arrows or a sword attack. Resistance against divine energy, for example against magical attacks from priestesses. Then resistance against primal resistance, which is resistance against elemental energy, like lightning being used or other things. And unholy resistance. For example, if zombies attack you or demons, they often have the ability to deal unholy damage. Then Aviana also has equipment consisting of 6 slots, 6 spaces that you can fill. She wears something on her head, and if you left click somewhere you can see everything that's in the pool. You can also change the headgear or an armor slot. The stats that each item brings are shown in the tooltip. You can leave it as is or pick something you think is especially cool now. You can also switch depending on the battle and the territory you're in. For example, if you're traveling in a zombie territory, then it might be a good idea to bring equipment that has good abilities against physical and unholy attacks. For example, consider each slot and decide what to take and what to leave behind. Then you have 4 other stats at the bottom: strength, dexterity, constitution and intelligence. These are stats that indirectly affect how you are equipped in battle. Strength affects your resistance to physical attacks, sword and arrow, against divine attacks, priestesses and power. So, how strong you are, how much damage you deal. The dexterity stat, for example, affects your initiative value and your chance to hit briefly. Constitution. You can boost your resistance against unholy attacks with it and get more hit points. And intelligence. More intelligence gives you more mana, so she can cast more spells and has stronger resistance to elemental effects. You don't need to remember every detail since everything is recalculated indirectly, which also updates other stats. How high this value is in detail depends not only on a base value, but also on what equipment you carry with you. That means, if you say before a battle that it might be important to be as prepared as possible against elemental magic attacks, then you could make sure that you have a higher intelligence value, and you could look for equipment to carry with you that increases your intelligence value. Or you could just say to yourself, man, I don't have to play this in a super complicated way, I just make sure that I have decent average stats everywhere. That way you can actually get through the game pretty well. There's something else. There's a skill tree that you can access in the top right. You click on it and over time you'll get points. Your character levels up. Skill points, which you can invest here in 3 areas: combat, Nephilim and magic. Combat for her is a skill point like this. Only she can use skill points, other units can't. That's a unique feature for our heroes. In combat, we strengthen her attributes. As a melee fighter in the magic tree, we influence her abilities, her magical abilities. And Nephilim, that's basically everything that supports her companions or the allies around her. This way you can strengthen the whole team by investing skill points there. It starts at the bottom, and later if you have skill points in reserve you can assign a point with a left click and remove one with a right click. If you mess up your skill allocation, you can reset it later in the fortress for a gold fee. You can respend all your skill points, so you can't really mess up your choices. When you've used everything, click confirm and you win at the lower level. You see these connectors, so now upper things become possible. Spent and so on. For some things you can only spend 1 point, sometimes you can also stack them. Then the effects will be even stronger. As we wander through our adventures through distant lands, we always have this button, bottom left. A portal that we can enter. When we do that, we end up here in our fortress, in our secret base of Aviana and her companions. It's not available to us from the start of the game, but fairly quickly, and here we can proceed. The strategy part of the game is mainly found here in our fortress. The fortress has very few building slots. That means if you eventually realize you'd like to build a different building, you can send buildings to the reserve bench. You can phase shift them, which at first might not really cost much, but later on it will require more and more resources. You can swap the buildings anytime, but let's set a simple rule to not do it too often. Which buildings are there? The central, the most important building, here it is right at the top, that's the castle itself. Here, for example, we can meet our companions, whom we get to know over time, have dialogues with them, gather information, and do other things. The mood of the companions, that is, whether they are well disposed toward us, is not influenced by how well we get along with the individual factions, even though the companions often come from certain political factions. How loyal they are to us and how much morale they bring into battle with us depends only on our personal relationship with the companions. So this works differently than with the regular standard units that we can recruit. We can collect resources here, and over time we occupy buildings on individual maps that then provide us with income continuously, or we collect resources. At some point our storage is full, and when we click on collect here, everything is reset to 0 and the timer starts again. Then we can gather new resources again without losing or wasting any. We can also reassign our skills, just spend a bit of money to get skill points back and redistribute them. Then we have a barracks available for each of the 4 factions in the game. And those are available from the very beginning, and we can upgrade them to get higher level units. How you can upgrade these buildings depends on how much the main building has been upgraded. The castle itself has 4 different ranks. The further we progress in the campaign, the higher we can upgrade the castle itself, the central building. That costs a few resources each time, and it's pretty steep if we have them. We can click the upgrade button down here, and the individual barracks that are here, I'll open one as an example, you can only upgrade them once the entire castle has been upgraded to a higher rank. Here we can recruit units currently level 1 and 2, since the barracks are only upgraded to level 2. It costs us a one-time amount of resources with no ongoing maintenance. The units we already have can be trained, meaning upgraded. Do the people level up on their own too? They gain experience points when they participate in battles. But if we haven't used people and just keep them on the bench, they don't gain any experience points, or if we recruit them much later. And then we have the option to click on them on the left, unless it says maximum reached, and then we can drag them over to the right here. And we can spend a bit of money so that they reach the same experience level as the other units here as well. Moving buildings is available for all 4 different factions. Then there are also special buildings. Here we have the marketplace, where we can hire special mercenary units that we normally wouldn't be able to get. They update their offers about every hour. We can buy equipment for our people, weapons or armor, headgear, chest pieces, pants and boots, and we can also buy resources. So we can trade if we have excess wood, but we urgently need arcane flux or iron. We can spend a little gold, we can trade, we can shop, whatever. Higher value resources unlock gradually during the campaign. What can we actually equip our people with? I'll show you using our heroine as an example. You know that. We can equip all kinds of armor pieces. We can give her weapons and emotion shards, magical objects we acquire over time. It's a bit different with our companions. So basically a level below with the units, if we go there and then right click on one of them, we can equip them with weapons and emotion shards but not armor, and they lack a skill tree. However, these 2 options are available. With the regular units it's slightly less. With the regular units we only have these emotion shards available, which we can select from a pool here and assign. We can also upgrade these pieces of equipment by going to the forge. It gets unlocked over time and then we can buy and place it. This lets us fuse emotion shards or upgrade equipment. I'll demonstrate with the pre-activated emotion shards at the top left that covers everything. There you can see all types of emotion shards, and everything to the right of that is just certain types of emotion shards. And if you have 2 identical emotion shards, for example a strong intuition shard and another one, I'll put one here on the right, another here, then merge them. And by spending resources I can create a majestic intuition shard from them. It looks a bit different when it comes to upgrading equipment. For example, you take a set of items, a sword you want to upgrade which can be leveled up by spending resources. However, you also get a lot of weapons over time just by looting during quests. In this playlist you'll find my ongoing Let's Play for this title streamed live on Twitch with recordings available here on YouTube. Guys, have fun playing yourselves, good luck, and bring Aviana to fame and honor and lots of loot, please.